Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm really happy you could join us. This is the Fibre Co's Autumn-Winter 25-26 preview webinar for stockists. And if we haven't met before, I'm Daphne Marinopoulos. I started the Fibre Co many years ago, and I'm here today and very excited to be here today to show you everything that's new we've been working on for over the last year. And I think there are some things here that are really going to excite your customers for autumn winter. So let's get going here. Right, here we go. Okay, we'll start with this quick overview. This season, we're introducing two brand new yarn lines. One's called Herb and Hue. The other one is called Transitions. That's a little bit of a anomaly for us here at the Fibre Co. We're not the yarn brand that brings out new yarn lines every season, and now suddenly we have two. Well, it just worked out that way. We work on yarns, we get them just right and the way we want them, and then, okay, they happen and we go with it. So this season we've got two. We also have some new shades in a couple of other lines that we're also excited about, because one of them is a hand-painted range of shades in one of our lines. It's not normally hand-painted, so you'll see those in a moment. And we have some new shades in Cumbria and Cumbria Fingering. And then lastly, but not leastly, we have 7 new designs across 4 of our lines, and we'll take a good look at those in a moment. There's a lot to get through, but before we do, I am as excited about our new collection as I am about our newest team member, Jen Burt. Jen joined us in February of this year, at the beginning of February. And she is our wholesale and customer support specialist. So Jen comes to us with 15 years of experience in the industry. She started with her own shop, so she really knows what you guys are all about, and the good and the bad, and the fun and the challenges. She has also been a manager at Makers Mercantile. Many of you may know that that business in the Pacific Northwest. And she has some experience doing editorial work for a couple of major publishers, craft publishers. And most recently, Jen came to us from Knit Picks. So lots of experience. She kind of knows her way around, and she'll be your really helpful go-to person for lots of things, but mostly it's going to be about helping you processing orders and answering questions about things like what we're going to go over today, the new collections, and helping you with any kind of bespoke projects you might be interested in doing, whether it's a knit along or local yarn store day. Some of you may have been in touch with Jen already for that. She was great getting us organized for that. Now, most of you are familiar with Rebecca, and Rebecca's still here as well. And Rebecca and Jen will be working closely, but with Jen on the team and on the West Coast of the US, our customer support for stockists hours have expanded, and she'll also be able to answer the phone for you in business hours that cover the Pacific time zone. So that's Jen, and we're excited she's on board. And now let's talk yarn. Really, I'm beyond excited to tell you about these two new yarns, Herb and Hue and Transitions. Let's begin with Herb and Hue. Plant-dyed perfection, we're calling it. That's our tagline. So guess what? It's plant-dyed. What does that mean? Well, the technology behind it, we're going to go over that in a little bit, but let's just stick with the yarn specifications to start with. It's a worsted weight yarn. It's 100 grams on the twisted hang. It is 100% extra fine merino wool. Now, that definition of what extra fine merino wool is anything that is 19.5 microns or below. So super soft, luxury fiber. You've got 214 meters, 234 yards on the 100-gram hank. The gauge is between 17 and 18 stitches, very typical for a worsted weight yarn. Needle size, again, very typical. This is made in Italy, and that's going to figure in a moment when I tell you a bit more about the technology behind the dye process. So I've mentioned already that's an extra fine merino wool. the wholesale price, I have US dollar and Canadian prices here. The pound sterling prices and euro prices, they'll be available from our distributor, Pearl Nova, shortly. So bear with us on that. But for right now, the wholesale price per pack of 10 100-gram hanks is 190 US and 270 CAD. And the recommended retail price is 38 and 54. These are the 12 shades that we're going to launch the line with. And I'm going to show you those on another camera here shortly. We have worked with the dye house to create 20 colors. And so we have plans to add 5 for spring, summer 26, and another 3 for autumn, winter 26, 27. I'm going to show you a sneak peek of those too. Now, we're going to talk about the plant dyeing technology that we use, but just briefly here to show you that you can get a lot of different colors from plants, and some of them here that you can see the plants across the top. Some of the colors we have in the range, well, there's 3 that we're using one plant material for, and it's just how it's used to create very different shades of red here, the madder root, and weld to get a green and a very deep green. And you can just see some of the others here as well. Now, what is this technology I've been talking about? Well, it's called natural coloration technology, which is actually a certified mark from Woolmark. And the process that's used to dye herb and hue is called naturale. And it's a process that was developed by an Italian dye house. A dye house that's been in business for many, many years, and it was a typical traditional industrial dye house. But the current generation of the family that owns it was very interested. One of the family members was very interested in the idea of using plants to dye and do it on an industrial basis. So it has been done in the past, but usually using just or getting quite light or paler shades, and the idea of having kind of the deep saturated shades that I've been showing you was just not available on an industrial basis until this technology was developed. And so the most interesting thing about all of this is that there are no chemicals, no additives, there are no dye powders that are used. It is not there are no tinctures, anything like that. The dyes are self-fixing. So that's quite unusual. I've had a lot of people say, well, you have to have mordants. Well, you don't. And this mill has figured out how to do that. And it's their own proprietary technology that has been certified by Woolmark. And the natural coloration technology is what the certification is. And we hope to be able to add that trademark on our product labels for herb and hue. We're just going through the application process right now. Now, it is one word of caution, and this will also be on the label, is that because it's using the plant materials, there can be some color transfer with 1 or 2 of the dyes. I'll tell you my experience with it is that with a warm, moist hand, there was one color, the weld dye, the green, that's in the range called Canterbury Fields. I got a little bit of green coloration on my hands when I was making the mini skeins, because I made them all myself for our sales reps. Our sales reps have a ring of mini skeins, and when I was making those, it was there were quite a few of them. And when I finished with the green color, I noticed I had a little bit of green on my fingers. So now, I didn't have any from those that use the indigo dye, but it could happen, and that's what's probably more known. But the labels will be marked as such. So we, of course, have care instructions to say hand wash, cool separately from other colors. And if you're doing color work, that you should always test the colors and how they work together on a swatch. So what I want to do is just take a little break from this camera right here now and show you my other camera to just get you feeling the yarn with me. if I can call it that. So let's take a look at that. All right, now how do you feel it? Well, sometimes I think if you just see someone squishing some yarn, you get a sense for how soft it is. And these are 4 of my favorite colors in the range, and you'll see that we use these colors in our design collection as well. But the colors are so beautiful and saturated, and while I do appreciate the lighter colors, those that you see from, kind of indie dyers that use plants. And I've done a lot of plant dyeing myself, and just lovely, lovely colors. But I think some of these saturated colors and just knowing that they're going to perform well it's just really fun to think that plants did this. And the fact that there are no additives, no chemicals, it's the actual plant materials. And we're going to create a bit of content around that for the launch, so we can show people what the plants look like, the actual plant materials that are used. And this is a set of mini skeins here. Your sales reps have these, and they'll be bringing them by. So please do ask for them. So you can see the 12 shades that we're going to launch with. They will also have one of these little packs of swatches that we've made up for the 12 colors, and each of them with the names. And, the pet factor here is really severely nice. And it's just really fun to look through these and see this color here. I love Black Forest. It looks black, but it's really not black. It's really a very, very deep green. Just a stunning color. This Byzantium Velvet, another beautiful color. Venetian Terrace, we have a design in this. And this really super true red. Lovely bright pink, Oaxaca Sunset. Khmer Spice. This is also in our design collection. And a lovely kind of sandy yellow. And even the cream is dyed. It is dyed using a juniper plant. So that is not a white merino, just natural. It's a slight cream shade there. So how about a sneak peek ahead for what's coming in the spring of 26? We have these very spring-like colors. And then in the autumn of 26, 27, we're adding 3 more, a brown and a deeper gray and this lovely blue. So yeah, just a little bit of show and tell there to hopefully get you feeling the yarn along with me. It's kind of a weird way to think about feeling a yarn with, through a screen, but it can be done. And hopefully you got a sense for just how lovely and soft it is. So let's go back now, and I will get back to the presentation and we'll have a look at what's next. What is that second yarn that I said we don't do so many new yarns of? What does it look like? Okay, transitions. What's transitions? Shifting hues about? Well, transitions is a color changing yarn. And why did we do a color changing yarn? Aren't there enough on the market? And this is something we begin with every time we develop a new yarn. We ask ourselves this question: why are we creating a new yarn? Why this yarn? Why that yarn? Why not? Why this? Always why? Why do we need to bring this out? Which is oftentimes why we don't have new yarns on a regular basis, because we don't always feel like we've answered that question. But for the color changing yarns, there's some lovely ones on the market. In particular, I really like those color changing yarns where you'll go from, in one hank, a bright yellow to a neon pink to a lime green and a blue with an overall maybe cast of yellow or something, and lots of fun design work around those. But I felt like the market didn't need any more of those, but what could our take on a color changing yarn be? And so color is really where I started with this and said, what if it was a color changing yarn, but it really went with the kind of color aesthetic that the Fibre Co has in some of their other lines? And what came to mind was to take the palette from our Cumbria fingering range and look at that palette and come up with some color changing, some of those colors, and put them in a color changing yarn so that they could be used together. So the specs here are that it's a sport weight yarn. They come in 100-gram cakes. It's a blend of 50-50 alpaca and Peruvian Highland wool. The length is 300 meters on the 100-gram cake. And you're using a gauge, and you're getting a gauge and needle size in that range of a sport weight yarn. This is made in Peru for us. And the way it looks knitted up is, you're going to see a lot more examples of this. You can see in this image here. And the wholesale price is $60 per pack of 5 100-gram cakes. The retail price in dollars is 24, and the Canadian is 34. And likewise, we'll have the pound sterling and European and the EU pricing through our distributor to you shortly. So these are 6 shades that we've developed. Now, why only 6? Well, if you see these knitted up here, you can see that the colors generally change quite gradually on this narrow swatch. And the way it happens is that we are using one color throughout, and you can see on the lower part of the right side of the slide here, 4 different input colors. The one on the left is used throughout the cake. It's never used alone, but it's used throughout the cake. And it is then injected on a periodic basis with one of the 3 colors to the right. And so every so many meters, the green, the pale green will come in, and then the rusty orange will come in, and then the more teal blue-green will come in. And if you're knitting on a narrow basis here, this is showing a 5-inch swatch on the left. You can see how the colors change gradually on a vertical basis. But if you're knitting wider, and this sample here is estimating a 15-inch wide swatch, you get a more defined kind of stripy changing of the colors. So this is just using the yarn on its own, but we envisioned, as I said, I pulled colors out of the Cumbria fingering range, and we envisioned doing some design work. And in fact, our design work that you'll see in a moment is indeed from the Cumbria fingering used together with transitions. So what I have now for you is a series of slides showing each of the 6 colors and how we've knitted swatches with one color in Cumbria fingering. This first one that's come up is the shade Stratum Shift with cat bells. And one of our designs is actually in this combination. It was my favorite. The next one that I'm going to show you is using Liminal Tide with Eden Valley in Cumbria fingering. And then next up is the Auroral Flux shade with Blencathra in Cumbria fingering. And then we have our purple shade, which is called Zephyr Melt, knit together, not held together, but knit in a slip stitch pattern, I should say, with our Hadrian's Wall shade in Cumbria fingering. And then the next one is Vesper Bloom, which is the deeper red-purple range, shade, knit in a slip stitch pattern with Kaluna. And then finally, we have the shade Daybreak Shimmer that is knit here with Egremont, which is a lovely rust heathered color in Cumbria fingering. So that is transitions, shifting hues. And as I mentioned, it comes in cakes. We have some colors under development for future seasons, but we're not far enough along that I could really show you any of them. And now we'll take a look at some of the new colors coming out for the season ahead. First up, Make Super Bulky. We're calling it our Artisan series. And then we have new shades in the Cumbria blend. So what is this Make Super Bulky Artisan series? So basically, we just wanted to do some hand dyeing, and we took the colors that were in the existing range, and we had a play of doing some hand painting with direct application. So this is, all the specs are just like our super bulky, with the exception of the pricing, because of course we had to increase the price because of the fact that they are hand dyed with direct application. So the wholesale price is 110 for a pack of 10, and US and Canadian 150, retailing at 22. But still quite, I think, for a hand dyed yarn, quite a reasonable price. Hopefully, it seems that way for you. The hat that you see here is our jagged ridge beanie hat. So it's not a new pattern, but we just had it knit in each of the 6 shades so that you could have a look at what it looks like knit up. And yeah, and so I think if you look at that, and if you're stocking and make super bulky, the last thing I wanted to say about it is that we went back and forth about whether we should have this on a hank or have it in the ball. And I know that a lot of people see a hank as having a higher perceived value, and would someone recognize and understand that these are hand painted yarns, as opposed to, because when they're in the ball, you know, well, how do you do that in the ball? But we actually dye these in larger hanks, and then they are put into a ball. So if we put them in, if we dye in a larger hank to get the right color look, and then put it in a smaller hank, that would have been a much more expensive. Plus we thought it would be better to have these balls sit next to your other solid shades that are industrial dyed in and make. So they sit together on the shelf and look cohesive. The only difference will be in the pricing. All right, next up, the new shades in Cumbria and Cumbria fingering. And as you know, if you stock these lines, we have, when we bring out new colors, we bring them out in both. We've been asked for greens and greens and greens. So this season, we're going to have 2 new greens and a lighter shade that is actually a popular shade in another line, actually in the and make range. And then a more of like a mossy green that is our most popular green from our Acadia line. So, and then a kind of a dusty heathered pink and this kind of mid blue. And this is coming out in both the Cumbria and Cumbria fingering shades. These, one thing I haven't talked about is availability. These shades are going to be ready at the mill in about a week to 10 days. So when they come into the warehouse, they're going to be available to you. So we're not waiting for fall to make these available. When the other yarns, the 2 new yarns and the 2 new yarns, Herb and Hue and Transitions, are scheduled to launch on the 1st of September. And the hand-painted yarns for and make super bulky will be more in the late July to early August timeframe. But we'll be keeping you up to date on the timeline for everything as we get clear dates. All right, so it's time to look at the designs. And we're going to start with Herb and Hue. And really, I'm so excited about these because on this call with us is the designer. And this designer is also our stockist, and she's worked with us in the past. Lotte Lothgren created 3 stunning designs in our Herb and Hue. And we're calling this our Global Shift Collection. The story behind asking Lotte to do these designs is that she and I have some lovely conversations through email. And one time, a few years ago, we were talking about some of the hand dyeing work she was doing and using plant materials to do that with. And I was telling her about this dyer in Italy. And when this all finally came to fruition last year in July, and we started thinking about, well, who are we going to get to design for us? It was just a no-brainer. I reached out to Lotte immediately, and she was excited about it. And some things were shifting in her schedule, and the timing was just perfect. And what she's created, if you don't know Lotte's work, you should look it up. You probably do know some of her work because she has done some designs for us, but she also has some published works and a book with that's published by Lina magazine or Lina Publishing. and lots of her own independent designs. So definitely take a look at Lotta's work. She's Elk Market Yarn, Lotta Lothgren. She does all this work from a very beautiful, inspiring location in a Swedish forest, not too far from here. Actually, it is quite a bit far from here. But this first design, let's take a look. Global Shift Shawl. Here it is shown in another color. We showed it to, the previous slide showed it in the Khmer Spice. Here it's shown in the Venetian Terrace color, and it takes 4 hanks of herb and hue. And that is actually Lotta on the left, and on the right is her neighbor, Esther. And you might recognize Esther from who modeled a design that Lotta did for us during the pandemic. One of Lotta's many talents is also she's a great photographer. And so during the pandemic, when she did a design for us and we couldn't do a photo shoot, she did the photography for the Lowther sweater, which is in our Cumbria and Cumbria fingering yarn, and Esther's partner were models for that. So you might recognize Esther on the right. And this is in the shade Venetian Terrace, another one of my favorites. The next design is the Global Shift Sweater. Lotta, I hope I'm not making you blush. Nobody would see it in the comments, but if you have anything special to say, please do add it to the chat so people can see what you might want to say about the designs and working on these, because I'm sure I'm not doing it justice just yet. I haven't touched them yet. They're on their way. Lotta is shipping. The photo shoot was just done recently, so I can't wait to get my hands on these. The Global Shift Sweater. Okay, so one thing that I didn't mention is that all 3 designs use a similar, quite circular offset cable pattern. And you saw that on the shawl, and here it is on the back of the sweater. And this is using between 5 and 9 hanks, depending on your sizes. The front has this lovely wide broken rib pattern, and it's a nice V-neck, not too high, not too deep. And this is the Global Shift Sweater. And then lastly, the hat, the Global Shift hat. And here we're going to show this to you in 3 colors. It's a 1-hank project. Canterbury Fields, this is a lovely green. You can see that same really pretty cable pattern. You just get a feel for how squishy and soft it is from the photography here. This is the Byzantium velvet yarn, the really deep purple, kind of red purple. And then lastly, we also have a sample in the very dark Black Forest shade, that very dark, deep green. So Lotta says she is blushing. I was just checking to see if there were any questions about it. Lotta, that's great. Well-deserved blushing, or no, that doesn't make any sense, does it? Anyway, beautiful designs. I hope you can see that these would be great projects, especially the one skein hat for somebody who just wants to try this out, because of course this yarn is at a pricier point of the range, but we wanted to make sure that someone could try it out with a fun, engaging 1-hank project and test the yarn and make sure they liked it. Okay, next up is our first design for transitions, and this one is called the Flowing Tides Shawl. This design is using the shade Vesper Bloom in transitions and the shade Kaluna in Cumbria fingering. There's a large and a small version, so you're either going to be using one of the cakes of transitions or 2 or 1 or 2 hanks of Kaluna. The designer is Audrey Borrego, and she has really put these 2 together in a beautiful way with there's a cable pattern that you can see in this image here. And the other stripes that are coming through are shifting between transitions and Kaluna in a slip stitch pattern. Next up is a sweater. This is in our shade called Stratum Shift. This is the one I mentioned earlier, and our Cat Bells yarn. We don't have photography just yet of it, because it's just getting finished up, but this is done by Becky Baker, the designer. And Becky works with us as our project manager for our design work. And it's quite a simple design itself in terms of silhouette, but we wanted the yarn to do all the work here. So kind of a not cropped, but kind of maybe on the high hip is where this would land, but of course lengths are adjustable. And it has an all over slip stitch pattern that uses these two colors from Transitions and Cumbria fingering. So that's our second design in Transitions. Next up, we have some seasonal fun for you. We've taken our one sock blueprint pattern for making socks, and we've created 3 color work designs for them. One is a very autumnal one, and then 2 are more, kind of traditional Christmassy snowman and red and green type for the Christmas holiday. So these we don't have any images of just yet because they're just being finalized. But I have seen a couple of images of the stripy one, and it's really it's really beautiful. And I've seen an image of half of the snowmen, and that's looking great too. So I think these are going to be great for gifts, and they're going to use minis as well as a full hank. So we'll have yarn usage to you shortly. It's not available just yet. And then because and Make Aran is quickly becoming one of our most popular yarns in for sweater knitting, we have added a new design to this range as well. And if you're not familiar with this blend, it is a 50-50 blend in an Aran weight of alpaca and Highland wool. And we wanted to do some intarsia work, so it's quite a simple inset of intarsia on the side as well as on the sleeves, mirrored on the sleeves, using 4 colors in total. Side flash sweater. Sorry, I forgot to say that. So here we are. This is the lineup. The 2 new yarns, yarn shades, the hand-painted Artisan series and Make super bulky. The 4 new shades in the Cumbria blend, both the worsted and the fingering weight, and 7 new designs. And honestly, you could say 9 designs if you include the 3 color work patterns for the one sock. So I hope this is looking like a great lineup for you. We're very excited about it. I'm ready to take any questions that you might have, and I might also, if you don't mind, pose a question to you first, because one of the things that we're working on now is kind of our phase 2. Up until this point, we try to get everything ready so it's presentable, so our sales reps can come and visit you if you do have a sales rep. If you don't have a sales rep, by the way, do get in touch, and we'll try to get whatever we can get to you in whatever's available as a sample. We don't have shade cards just yet, but when we have things like that available, we'll try to get you what we can get you for that. But we get everything ready to a certain point for us to get here to give you the time to think about it. Many of you will go to the trade show in Chicago and have a look around. We wanted you to have this information before you went there to know what's coming from the Fibre Co and what's going to be available for the season. We will not be exhibiting there. But the next phase, and this is the point I'm trying to make now, and a question I have for all of you, is that we are putting together kind of a content and resources plan for the launch to the consumer, so that your customers can know and understand what this is all about. And I'm thinking in particular for Herb and Hugh, there's a lot of content we can create about the plants, about the process. It is a pricier yarn, retailing at US 38, but there's an educational aspect to that. We are floating the idea of doing a printed booklet that if someone brings in Herb and Hue, they would get so many copies of this so that they could show their customers and explain what this is all about. Because on one look, someone might just say, well, it just looks like yarn that's, colored yarn. Well, what is this? Why is it this price? So we want to be able to tell that story because it is a unique one. And so I would like, if anybody has any ideas, just float the question, what would you like if you were to bring a yarn like this in? What would be helpful to you to be able to, put it in its best light for your customers? So, and I can take your questions as well. I'll look at the answers here, but if you, I'll look through and see, what comes up. But if there's anything that you can think of, I'm all ears and would love to hear what you have to say. And I'm sure some of your counterparts in neighboring towns and villages and countries would be interested in hearing what you have to say. So I'm seeing from my Disco, as a natural dyer, I'd like to better understand this process, right? We'll have a limit because it's a proprietary process, so will be a limit to what we can say about the actual process. But one of the things we've talked about is the possibility of having the creator of the process join our webinar for consumers that we do. That we always have a launch to consumers, and there will be some things that she'll be able to share about it. So that's one of the things we were talking about. I vote for digital assets such as videos, Cynthia Gilbertson is saying, or PDFs we can link to rather than paper. Okay. The booklet is a great idea. Maybe a small poster that could be displayed next to the yarn, or postcards that would be given to the customers, and or a short YouTube video. Great. Thank you for that. These are all great ideas and things that we're going to, now that we've reached this point, we're going to sit back and spend the next couple of months coming up with what we feel like would be best for you, obviously with your input. So if nothing comes to mind right now, do get in touch. Don't hesitate to send a note and let me know your thoughts. I'm going to look, it looks like we have an official Q&A here from Deanna. She's a bit concerned about the price point on Herb and Hue, and I'm wondering why you decided to go with the yarn base that you did. I think the Naturali dye technique sounds great. I have seen the yarn in person and it's lovely, but I think a tricky sell at 54 CAD. If you were me, what would be your sales pitch directly to the customer? Yes, it is, and that's just, that's what I just said. We went with that fiber because we wanted a luxurious base, basically, and so that's what we went to, and so it's a combination of the fiber itself that comes with the price point, and then the dye process. So if we find that there's a strong interest in this, we can develop other price points. We've already started to work on a plant fiber yarn. The first blend we didn't like. A yarn like that would be at a much better price point because the plant fibers tend not to be as expensive as a fine wool. But yeah, it was the fiber that was available to us for this process, and in the timing that we were needing to do this in, and also we wanted it to be something special that really stood out. I feel like if we had gone in the middle, we would have had an even harder job to explain why, because even if we went in the middle of fiber range, it would have still been much more expensive than another yarn with that same fiber base. So yes, and then we have another question from Gertrude. Well, Wayne, we made the experience with plant fiber dyed yarns that the color bleached out in our shop with the light we have. Did you test this? Yes. So that it has all been tested for color, fastness from light and washing. And it meets a level that is acceptable to receive the certification from the Woolmark natural coloration technology. So in order to get that certification, it has to meet a certain level of testing. And how exactly that's measured, we're coming up with a way to present that in whatever materials we put out, whether they're digital or printed materials as well, because that is something that people know with, and it's quite frankly, one of the reasons why a lot of people will do the paler shades of naturally dyed fibers, so that they're, you know, they're expected to fade. And if they already start light, then okay, there's not much of a loss. But these are saturated colors for sure, and they are done to a certain standard that is deemed acceptable by the Woolmark Natural Coloration Technology Board. So part of the process we're going through right now to get that trademark added to our labels is we are giving them all of the test results that were already approved by Woolmark, but because we're adding on to that license through this new brand, we have to present them again. So there's information like that available that we'll publish and hopefully give everybody the confidence that they need to say that this is something that, you know, will have some longevity. Just gonna look at some of the other. Lotta says she seconds postcards and perhaps a small business card. Ah, right, that can be slipped into the package when someone orders it with the most important info story and such. Yeah, good. Okay. All right. Well, oh, I see. Let me see. Someone's raised a hand. Did I catch that? Beth, you've raised your hand. I don't know if you had something you wanted to add or say, but okay, I think maybe that was just, well, okay, I don't see any other questions or comments in the chat. So if we've reached this point, and there are no other questions, then that's all I've brought for you today. I don't have anything else to show and tell, or I'd certainly would. So maybe we finished a little bit early here. I would be happy to take any other questions, if there are any. Oh, so someone else has raised their hand. Don't know. I don't know what that means when someone raises their hands. Oh, sorry, if Anissa, if you have a question, I see your hand raised. If you have a question, do let me know. But otherwise, oh, Anissa's asking about tariffs, okay? Tariffs. Well, I don't know anything about tariffs. You know, I don't know who does really, but what I can say is that the prices that we have on our price list are the ones that we think we can go with. If things, you know, if rational minds prevail, and if there's something extremely irrational that happens, we'll look at it again. But our price list that we have for the season is the one that we are living with. Of course, we have the benefit right now of a warehouse full of stock, and that has yarn that is that hasn't been tariffed. So, or if it has been tariffed, it's because of where it comes from, it's been baked into the price. So yeah, we don't, I don't really have anything to say about tariffs other than to say that, you know, our pricing is based on having things be come to some kind of rational conclusion here. So assuming that that's what we get to, you know, our prices will stay as they are. Let's see, anything else that's come through? All right, I don't see anything, but okay, well, thank you all very much for coming and taking your time out to spend an hour with me here today. I know some of you, especially if you're in the US, you just had a local yarn store day over the weekend, and I hope that went well for you. And it's, just is really great that you took what was probably going to be your first maybe down day or slow day to come and join us. So thanks very much. And oops, hold on. I think there's another question. Any impact? Oh, same. It was a question and a comment. Yeah. Okay. On the tariff question. All right. Great. Well, thanks everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. We wish you well. We wish you a happy summer, and we will be in touch with more information as we go along. Okay. Bye for now.